The crack of bone against pavement was the first thing that ripped through the quiet Saturday morning. Emily Carter had been carrying the last of the groceries from the back of the SUV, humming softly to herself, when the two men approached. Reflective vests, cheap plastic badges clipped on like an afterthought, and the kind of false confidence that comes with believing no one will challenge you. "Ma'am, you're violating HOA regulations," the bearded one snapped. Emily blinked. "I'm sorry, we don't have an HOA here." It should have ended there. But it didn't. The man's sneer deepened. He stepped closer, hand shooting out to grab her arm. "I said you're in violation." Emily recoiled, dropping the bags as oranges and cans scattered across the driveway. His shove sent her backward, the curb catching her foot as the world spun sideways. Her body smacked against the concrete with a sickening thud, breath stolen from her lungs, ribs snapping like dry twigs beneath the weight of the impact. Jonathan Carter, retired Navy SEAL, had been rinsing suds off the F-150 just a few yards away. The sound, that unmistakable crack, turned his blood to ice. He dropped the hose, boots pounding across the driveway before his mind could fully process what he was seeing. His wife collapsed and gasping, the two men towering above her like carrion. The stockier man rifled through her fallen purse, indifferent. The taller one stood watch, arms crossed, posture relaxed. No urgency. No fear. Jonathan's body moved before his brain caught up. Muscle memory. Training. Protect. He closed the distance in a blur. The taller man saw him at the last second, stepping forward to brace. Too late. Jonathan's hip throw sent him crashing to the pavement, the thud echoing like thunder. His focus snapped to the second attacker, who now drew a knife, the blade flashing silver in the sunlight. Jonathan's eyes darted to the porch. The safe. 3 strides. For at most. Behind him, the man with the knife crouched to spring, thinking the chase had begun. But Jonathan wasn't fleeing. He was arming. The safe sprang open beneath his fingers. The M4 rifle nestled inside like an old friend. Jonathan's hands were steady as he chambered the round, shoulder locking into the familiar stance, iron sights aligned before the enemy could blink. The fake enforcers scrambled toward their battered Chevy Malibu, panic finally creeping into their expressions. But they'd picked the wrong driveway, the wrong family, the wrong man. The first shot cracked the morning air, shattering the front fender of the getaway car. The second blew out the rearview mirror. The third shot ripped into the hood, smoke pouring out in angry curls. Tire gone. Window gone. The Malibu jerked and died where it sat, crippled. They bailed from the vehicle, hands raised, mouths screaming apologies that fell flat against the hum of approaching sirens. Jonathan kept the M4 trained on them, every breath controlled, every movement deliberate. Not an inch of him shook. Not a flicker of rage distorted his aim. Just the cold, calm precision of a protector doing what needed to be done. By the time law enforcement arrived, the two attackers were face down on the asphalt, their false authority stripped away, their confidence drowned in the pool of their own failure. The evidence, fake badges, burglary tools, a stolen handgun was enough to paint the picture clearly. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was predation. And Jonathan had stopped it before anyone else could suffer. The district attorney didn't hesitate. The Texas Castle Doctrine stood firm behind Jonathan Carter. No charges. Full justification. The two criminals faced aggravated assault, attempted robbery, impersonation of law enforcement felonies that would keep them behind bars for a long, long time. But for Jonathan and Emily, the real battle was quieter. 7 ribs shattered, each breath a painful reminder. Recovery came slow, stitched together by long nights, gentle hands, and the kind of love that doesn't waver when things get hard. Jonathan never left her side, never let the weight of what had happened crush her spirit. One afternoon, as healing settled into the space between pain and peace, Emily found Jonathan hanging a small, handmade plaque above the safe. The letters were rough, uneven, carved with steady hands and fierce purpose. This home is protected by righteous fury. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about pride. It was about love, the kind of love that stands its ground, the kind that fights when it must, and never ever breaks. And as the sun slipped low across the horizon, casting a golden glow over the porch where they stood together, hand in hand, Emily Carter smiled for the first time in weeks. They hadn't just survived. They had built something stronger. Neighbors stopped by in the days that followed, some offering casseroles and well-wishes, others simply shaking Jonathan's hand, quiet respect in their eyes. No words were needed. The message had spread. Word traveled faster than the news reports. It wasn't just about the attack. It was about how it ended and who stood their ground. Emily's recovery remained the focus of their daily life. Physical therapy sessions became part of the routine. Jonathan drove her to every appointment, stayed in the waiting room, flipping through outdated magazines but never really reading them. His focus was always on her, counting the minutes until she walked back through those doors. And Emily, strong-willed as ever, refused to let the attack define her. She pushed through the pain, through the fear that whispered late at night when shadows crept too close. With every careful breath, every small step forward, she reclaimed the space the attackers had tried to take from her. Months passed, seasons shifted. The scar along Emily's ribs remained tender, a lasting memory of the violence that had shattered their peace. But so too did the plaque above the safe remain, a symbol of their resolve, of their home guarded not just by steel and wood, but by love, by the unwavering bond between two souls who refused to break. When the trial date finally arrived, Jonathan and Emily attended every hearing. They listened as the evidence was laid out in painstaking detail. They watched the defense try and fail to paint the two men as misguided or misunderstood. But the jury saw through it. The truth was plain. The verdict came swiftly, guilty on all counts. Sentencing day brought no celebration, just a quiet relief. 15 years. No parole. Justice wasn't revenge. It was balance restored. As they walked out of the courthouse hand in hand, Emily leaned into Jonathan, her voice soft but sure. "We're going to be okay." Jonathan nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "We always were." The morning air outside the courthouse felt different, cleaner somehow. Lighter. And for the first time since that awful day, the weight pressing on their hearts began to lift. They drove home in silence, letting the hum of the truck engine fill the space between them. And when they pulled into their driveway, the place where it all began, they both paused for a moment, staring at the house that had seen their worst day and stood strong anyway. Jonathan reached for Emily's hand. "Home," he whispered. Emily squeezed his fingers gently. "Always." And the sun, ever persistent, broke through the clouds overhead, shining down on the porch, the safe, and the hand-carved sign that promised anyone who approached, this home was protected by love, by strength, by righteous fury. The crack of bone against pavement was the first thing that ripped through the quiet Saturday morning. Emily Carter had been carrying the last of the groceries from the back of the SUV, humming softly to herself, when the two men approached. Reflective vests, cheap plastic badges clipped on like an afterthought, and the kind of false confidence that comes with believing no one will challenge you. "Ma'am, you're violating HOA regulations," the bearded one snapped. Emily blinked. "I'm sorry, we don't have an HOA here." It should have ended there. But it didn't. The man's sneer deepened. He stepped closer, hand shooting out to grab her arm. "I said you're in violation." Emily recoiled, dropping the bags as oranges and cans scattered across the driveway. His shove sent her backward, the curb catching her foot as the world spun sideways. Her body smacked against the concrete with a sickening thud, breath stolen from her lungs, ribs snapping like dry twigs beneath the weight of the impact. Jonathan Carter, retired Navy SEAL, had been rinsing suds off the F-150 just a few yards away. The sound, that unmistakable crack, turned his blood to ice. He dropped